When Reverend Nancy walked in this morning, Jerry saw her for the first time since a long time ago when they were with Reverend Mellon, back when Nancy was a baby practically. But I told Jerry, Nancy's been coming here for years as a guest speaker, a regular guest speaker, and we're happy to have her back again. She was here a few weeks ago, and she's going to be with us more. Reverend Nancy, come on up.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Bakersfield. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I have a title of my talk. Oh, guess I better find it, huh? So I have a title of my talk is Using Your Power for Good. Using Your Power for Good. So I was driving here. I thought, well, wait a minute. What's the power that we're using? Because if I'm using my power, I can pick up this glass of water. But if I'm using all power, I could put water in it. Or if there was water in it, I could change the water in it into wine, or wine back to water, or whatever the heck I wanted. So my point is this. Yes, we have power, and we need to learn how to use it. But there is a greater power. I'm reading this book, Mind to Matter by Dawson Church, which I talked about last time I was here. And in it, he's got a zillion people in it, but Joe Dispenza has a great section, and he used about 4,000 people who were healers and energy workers and shamans and priests and people who did deep meditation. And they put these brainy things all over their head so they can measure what's going on. And so what they noticed is that the person doing the praying first comes into resonance with what they call theta, which is, I guess, next to the deepest level you can go, mind. And then before very long, the person that's being prayed for comes into perfect harmony and balance in that same exact, it was 78.1 hertz or something like that. Both of them attuned to precisely the same. And that's the power that can bring us together, whether we're in this room or whether I'm in Africa, Australia, or Canada, or we're still connected. And more than you and I are connected, we're connected to that greater being, that field, that life force, that energy that we call God or Brahman or whatever, by whatever name we call it. It doesn't care because it's all of it. It's all of it. So we get to call it whatever. So yes, I'm thinking about that power today and how we're going to use that power for good, which is what the master teacher Jesus did. He understood that there was no separation. There's a statement written by Jesus in a book called, it doesn't matter what the name of the book is. He says, you have thought me to be separate and distant from you, but I say unto you, I am here, and you can come into my arms at any moment. So in this moment right now, just to invite you to just feel that for a moment. Just feel that. You can come into my arms. So all those times when we felt so alone and maybe depressed or sad or scared or whatever that might be, I am here, and you can come into my arms at any moment. So I want you to take that with you today. I'm certainly going to take that one with me today. So the title of my talk is Using Your Power for Good. So I have a delightful little story for you. This one just blew my mind. So I wanted to bring information about the workshop I'm going to be doing in October, and I asked Ann if it was okay, and she said, it's fine with me, but you probably ought to check with the big boss. So I called the big boss. I called Reverend Karen Lindsley. We'd never met before that I knew of. And we just hit it off like two peas in a pod. We're just laughing and chatting and loving on each other and having a great old time. And so we went back 2 or 3 times, looking at dates and times. And you call me back, and then I'll call you back. So finally she said, did you have a center at your, and I said, oh yeah, I might have a center in Fallbrook. I was a senior minister for 10 years. She said, really? And I started to tell her about Fallbrook. She says, no, I know Fallbrook. My mother lived there. I said, really? Your mother lived there? She said, yeah. She said, well, what years were you there? And I said, 94 to 2004. She said, hang on to your hat. You did my mother's memorial. A small world, serendipity. Are we connected or not? She said, didn't remember your name, but she said, I was doing really good. You know, we get it together. We get up there and I can do this. And she said at one point, I just lost it. Totally lost it. And she said, you put your arms around me and you held me until I could stop crying. And you didn't say anything. You didn't do anything. You just held me. And when I was ready, I let go, and then I continued with the memorial. She said, I didn't remember your name, but I never forgot that moment. So remember, last time I was here, it was a month ago, I said, you make a difference. Look at the difference that you're making every day that you may not ever know about. I mean, I would never have known that, right? If it hadn't been for that little moment's connection. So look at all the hundreds and thousands of people that you've touched in your life over time, and how a word that you said, or some encouragement, or a prayer that you spoke, or a book that you gave them, or a cup of tea you made, or whatever it is, some friendship that you extended has touched their life, and it changed them. It stays in us. It doesn't go away. It becomes part of our DNA, our spiritual DNA. It becomes part of who we are, and we take that with us wherever we go. Mother Teresa said, there are no great acts. There are only small acts done with great love. So the love that we have, the love is inexhaustible. Mind is inexhaustible. Substance is inexhaustible. So we tap into that power, which is greater than the power that you see standing in front of you, and we can do amazing things. Can we not? We can do amazing things. Look at you. Look at the changes you've made in your life. You would not have liked me very much if you knew me 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. I didn't like myself very much then either, to tell you the truth, until I found the Science of Mind. And I was messed up. And most of us find some spiritual teaching when we're kind of lost or messed up or something, seeking something more than what we have at the present time, right? So, in my first book, I brought it. The last time someone said, well, did you bring your other book? And I said, I thought people already had it. They said, we don't already have it. So I brought some of those. And people have come up to me and said, you know, I have your book. It was published in 2005, so it's been around for a while. They said, I keep your book on my nightstand. And if I just need a little encouragement when I go to sleep or whatever, I just pick it up and let it fall open to wherever it falls open. And wherever it is perfect, and I get some little jewel, some little moment that I tuck in for my restful, peaceful sleep that night. I mean, what a sweet blessing. The people you've touched that you'll never know. I want you to know that today and feel that in your heart, that you really make a difference. So this is from a quote from Power of Decision by Raymond Charles Barker. Your spoken word has power. Use it to produce what you want by not talking about what you do not want. Now, does everybody get that? Does anybody not understand what that means in this teaching? If you don't, it's perfectly okay, because, you know, we're all getting it all the time. I figure as long as I'm here to learn stuff. You know, your spoken word has power, because your spoken word, when you speak your word, you're activating that greater power. When you're speaking your power for good, you're activating that greater power, and you're asking it to speak through you in some way that you might or might not be even aware of. I know in prayer often what comes through after your conversation, if you're in spiritual counseling, what comes through in the prayer is often absolutely amazing. You have no idea where it came from. But it came from that source that we tune into and allow ourselves to be a conduit for. So it can bring forth. So I had read the book by Anita Moorjani, Dying to Be Me. And is everybody familiar with Anita Moorjani's book? Not everybody. Okay. So she had been fighting cancer for years and years, and she was at the end. Her body was completely riddled, every part of her body, every organ, every bone, everything. She had open, oozing sores, and her organs shut down, and she went into a coma for 2.5 days, and they told her family not to expect her to come back. So she went to the other side. For 2.5 days of our time, she was on the other side. And she said she was immersed in this incredible unconditional love and acceptance. And she'd struggled because of her heritage and the people that she was surrounded by. Everybody wanted her to be something different. Catholic school wanted her to be Catholic. Her family wanted her to be what they were, and then her friends, her neighbors wanted her to be something else. And she spent her life feeling like she never fit anywhere. Because if she was over here, then they didn't like her, and if she was over here, then they didn't like her. And she just was so confused and messed up in her mind about who she was and who the divine was, because everybody said it was something different, and she just felt torn apart in between, in her being. And she wrote in her book, "Why, oh why have I always been so harsh with myself?" Anybody know that one? Number one here, mastered it. Absolutely mastered it. Why am I so harsh? Why have I been so self-criticism is damning the magnificence of the being that God created. I didn't make this. I'm pretty good. You're pretty good, but I didn't make this. I had some help. So if I'm damning this, then I'm damning the God that made me. Right? So if you're made in the image and likeness of the divine, are you not divine? So if you were made out of whole cloth, would you not be cloth? So if you're made out of the divine, are you not divine? I see a little hesitation back there. That would be a yes. That would be a yes. It's like if you come from your mom, you're part of your mom, you're part of your dad. So that's what we come from, is this wholeness, this perfection, this beauty, this power, this joy, this freedom, this abundance, this health, this wholeness, all of it. That's what you are. And when we deny that, then we're denying our birthright. And I don't want to do that anymore because, well, it puts me in a mindset where I'm not available to be as helpful as I want to be the light that I want to be. A great statement that I put in my first book by Neil Donald Walsh from Conversations with God. And it goes something like this. Do not hide your light behind a bushel. Let it shine so that others may see the wonder of you, thus to know the wonder of themselves. For others see their possibility in your reality. That's why you make a difference. Everyone who sees you, I used to work in a dyslexia center, and there were 2 young girls at the reception area, and one day they said to me, "Why do you come in singing every Monday? We want what you're always humming." I didn't know I was doing. I'm going up and down the halls. I would hum, I guess. And they said, "We want what you got. What is it?" So when you shine, like I see you shine, like I see some of you right now, you get it and you shine. When you shine like that, you give other people permission to shine their light as well. So the end of it is be then a model to the world. So be that model to the world. Let your light shine. Not so I can say, "Look at me," but I can be the being that I am, that I came from. And remember that I don't always, but I'm working on it. You know, we're all working on it. So she said, she saw with new eyes, fresh eyes, she said, I saw that I was a beautiful being of the universe. I understood that the fact that I existed made me worthy of tender regard and not judgment. She was immersed in this ocean of love. She said her father came to her. She said, for the first time, I felt safe. I felt cherished for the first time in my life. And this is what she understood. My body is only a reflection of my internal state. My body is a reflection of my internal state. And I talked to you when I was here a month ago about how I struggled with my body because I was in the hospital 4 times. I came out with a walker. And it wasn't a pretty walker. It wasn't one of those, fancy ones with bells and whistles. It had tennis balls on the front, my son put on the front, and squeaky wheels on the back, so it goes, And I didn't care. I went, you know what? I'm sick and tired of sitting on this couch. I'm going to get up, and I'm going to start walking around the block with my scrapey, screechy walker, and I don't care. So the first day I went, 3-4 houses. And I went back and lay down. The next day I went a little farther and a little farther. And before you know it, I'm line dancing now. I'm line dancing on Wednesday nights. So, and I'm 91 years old. And this is what I know. This is what I've come to realize. This is what I've come to realize is the reason I was willing to surrender to that is greater than I am, brought me back to a point that I can stand here and say, it's a choice. I could still be on the couch or gone, not here. But I wasn't done yet. I think this is the most important part of my life. I think this is what the 90 years have been for, so that I can stand here and tell you that you can love your body back to wellness. So Wayne Dyer wrote, everything you're against weakens you. Everything you are for empowers you. So rather than being against something, be for its opposite. Rather than being against war, be for peace. So when I hate my body because of what it's doing, it can't love me back the way I want it to. I need to love it and know that at every moment in time and space, it is doing the very best that it knows how. And I also know that my body knows how to heal itself because it's done it over and over and over and over again. I woke up one morning with my hip paining me. And I'd never had anything like that before, and I had a 2-story house. And through the day, it got worse and worse. And this isn't the next day. It got really, really bad. So I got home that day, and the only way I could get up the stairs was to pick up my pant leg and move it up like that. I was not having a good time. So I got myself dressed. I had an appointment. I went out, and I'm toughing it out. I'm very tough it out. So I'm driving past the urgent care, and I hear, "You're really stubborn." I go, okay. I surrender, so I go to urgent care, and they want to bring me a wheelchair. I say, no, I can do this. I can do it. Tough. Ha. Not tough. So he says, stand up for me. And he touched my hip, and I almost fell on the floor. And he says, your head bursitis in your hip. He said, usually it's just a little bit of the hip. He said, you managed to do the whole thing? So he said, I'm going to give you this big bottle of pills, and it's going to take you about 3 weeks. Take 1 in the morning when they have, whatever. So I went home, and I picked up my Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, You Can Heal Your Body, You Can Heal Your Life. And I looked up bursitis. It said, so mad you want to hit somebody. And I knew instantly who that somebody was. And I picked up the phone, and I called that person, and I said, "Do you have a minute?" They said, "Yeah." I said, I need to talk to you. Needed for a minute. So we talked, and we got through it. I took a pill when I got home. I took one when I went to bed, and that was all. It was gone. So we have to be so careful with what we're putting in our mind or in our hearts, and it's about emotion. So the question, come on. In Mind to Matter, Dispenza. The question to Dispenza was, how can these energies that bring cortisol into our body that can damage our cells last so long? And the answer was because of a thought, but a thought that's emotion-packed thought. Something with emotion that you're really riled up, and it gets in there. We need to handle that. It happens to everybody, to all the time. But we need to do something with it. Rather than sitting on it and rehearsing, and then I call somebody up, and then we get to rehearse together. We're doing a combo, and then we get more people involved, and then we're all doing this dance of awfulness. Just how awful it all is. I don't care where you're pointing. There's plenty of awful to point to if you want to point in any direction. It's not going to bring me peace of mind. Not going to bring me peace of heart. It's not going to bring wellness to my body. So if your body's doing something that feels uncomfortable, or your mind or your heart or your emotions or your soul or your spirit is doing something that feels uncomfortable, go within. Get quiet, like Liz teaches us to do so beautifully. Go within, get quiet. I had an experience I wasn't going to share, but I guess I am, because it just told me to share it. I take supplements, good stuff, help my body feel good. One of them's kind of really big, and I have to kind of pay attention when I take it, so it doesn't because sometimes it kind of gets a little stuck. So I guess I wasn't paying attention. I thought I'm going to get my dinner, and I'll take that, and I coughed, and then I kind of inhaled and went down my air pipe. So I'm coughing my brains out. My tears are draining off my face. I'm practically doubled up on the floor. Every time I'd inhale, it would go, "Ugh." And there wasn't anybody there. I was by myself. And nothing was happening. I went, "Okay, you need to get still." Because I was panicking, felt panicky. So I leaned on the counter and I got really, really still. And then I paid attention to my breath. I watched my belly go in and out for a minute. And then I called on Yeshua. I'm calling you forth, Yeshua, in my mind. I need help. And I watched my breath go in and out. And I hiccuped, and it fell into the sink. See, we can't make anything happen, but we can allow. And I think we can allow for a lot more than we're letting ourselves allow for, and trust that that presence is not distant, not separate, but right here, right now. And you can come into my arms at any moment. I felt that presence. I called on that presence, and it helped me. And it's not the first time, and it's not the last time. How many of you have had an experience of that type? Anything like that? Call on a presence, it's there. So let's do that more this week. It doesn't have to be big stuff. It can be little stuff. Because I want a bigger container for love. I want a container big enough that nothing and no one is left out. And there's still some left out over there. I know there is. So I still have work to do. Do you? We all have work to do, don't we? Because remember, everything that you're thinking in your mind is going into the collective mind of the consciousness of humanity, not just of our country, but of the world, of the whole world. And we're all, with every thought and word and action and step, we're either lifting it up or not. And I want to lift up more than I have in the past. I want to be a lifter. I want to lift up. And our body is a reflection of our internal state. She said, and I am connected to the all that is. So my body will reflect that and heal rapidly. So within a few weeks, her body was completely cancer-free. And she has spent her life now traveling the world and talking to people about those things. So how can you use your power for good? Well, here's a few things. Number one, be the love that you are. I love to go in the checkout line, when they look really harried, they look tired, and they look at like, how long you got to go? 3 more hours. Well, you're almost there. You'll make it. You're doing fine. Especially if they have a disgruntled, ever been in line behind someone that they just can't get, they have issues. They do it all, and then they have to take it all out and do it all over. I always thank them for their patience and their kindness. They're people too. Everybody's just people too. Look in their eyes. And the second one is be grateful. When I was at my worst on the couch, I'd say, open your eyes. Look around you. Do that right now. Look around you. Look at this. I'm sitting in meditation looking at this. Look what you have. Look what you are. Look at these incredible beings. And the third one is be a helping hand. If someone needs an encouraging word, call somebody who you know is sick or is recovering, or make a cup of tea. Here's another one. Write little thank you notes. Buy a box of little thank you notes. Write handwritten thank you notes to people you'd never think to write to, like your dentist or your tax person. Send loving. They're people too. They need love too. They need love too. So be a helping hand. Lift others up. And the fourth one is be kind to yourself. In The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron has artist dates. Take yourself on a date. Take yourself on a date. Think of something that pleases you, whatever that might be. Be different for everybody. But make up something. Every week, do something kind for yourself. Be nice to yourself. This is from Ernest Holmes. And the very first book I ever got in Signs of Mind, I think somebody gave it to me, was this thing called You. Yeah, thing called You. It's so simple and so perfect, particularly for anyone who's new. And it says this, I love this. It is the law of my life that wherever I go, I shall meet with joy, with love, with friendship, and with the opportunity to use every talent and ability I possess. It is the law of your life, not a good idea. The law of your life, that everywhere you go, you will meet with friendship, with beauty, with joy, with love, and the opportunity to share all your talents and abilities, all your gifts with the world. But I think we have to look for it. I notice that sometimes when I'm looking for something but I don't expect to find it, that happened this week. And I told myself that. You were looking for it, but you weren't expecting to find it. I was looking for that book, this thing called You. And I went, well, it's not in this bookcase, it must be someplace else. So I went to the other bookcase and I went through it very carefully and it was not there. So I went, well, okay, then go back to square one. And it was right there, but I didn't expect to find it, so I couldn't see it. It was right there on the top shelf. And I didn't see it because I was looking for it. So when you look for good and know that it's yours and love yourself and love your neighbor as yourself and love the divine that is your very life, then more good's going to come into you. You make a difference. Your loving presence, your light makes a difference in the world. And your body is a reflection of the beauty in your mind. Be kind to yourself. No more beating ourselves up. Mastered that one. No more beating ourselves up. We deserve love just because we exist. Not because of anything we did, but just because we exist. And the father said to her, now that you know who you really are. Go back and live your life fearlessly. Namaste. Let's just take that love, that peace, that sweet, sweet feeling into our hearts right now. And this is what I know. There's a power for good that is greater than I am. And it's right where I am, is what I am. And as I move out into my life, into the world, I see that God because I expect to find it. So everything I know to be true about the divine, that it is all power, all presence, all joy, all laughter, all peace, all health, all wholeness, all freedom, all abundance, prosperity. That is who I am. And that is who each of us is. And not just the people in this sanctuary, but everybody everywhere. Because there's only one being, one life force. And it flows through everything, just like the air around us. And the ocean that we step our feet into. And the sun that shines on everyone equally. Not more for one and less for another, but equally. So claim this week as we claim our good, as we stand in our power, as we go out in the world as the love that we are and be grateful, be a helping hand and be kind to ourselves. I know that the divine is dancing in joy. It says in the Bible, and all the mountains and hills shall break forth into singing, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. So we go forth from this place, from this moment, this connection, with joy and gratitude for a life well lived. I'm so grateful for this center, for this loving community, and for the opportunity to speak this word. So with gratitude and joy, I just release it now. I let it be. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.
Yeah, right.
That's my treasure.
It's, I don't know about you guys, but she spoke so much truth and in such a beautiful way. I was tearing the whole time. It was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Reverend Nancy B.